Hey everyone, this is Twice with another video on the 7 Deadly Sins for Knights of the Apocalypse manga. Today I wanted to take the time and talk about chapters 237 to 240 because some big questions are being asked to the audience and some seeds are being planted throughout these chapters specifically. That is, can we trust the real Arthur? Merlin's morality is questionable at best, so is she more villain than a hero? Kath versus the Knights of Prophecy and Lancelot's downfall. Let's get into it. Chapter 237 marks the return of Escanor as we knew him before in the 7 Deadly Sins, or so it seems. He's guarding the entrance to the remains of the real Camelot, and in order to enter, our protagonists have to go through him. We can deduce early on that this isn't actually Escanor and that it's an illusion of some kind via Lancelot's dialogue, but how this is made possible is confusing and physically troubling. Knowing that Tristan and Percival prepare themselves for offense and confidence, Tristan in particular showing what he got from his father, his competitiveness, but it's Percival who is the first knight to take a swing. That is, he tries to absolutely blitz Escanor and absolutely misses. Impudent, Escanor says, as he always does. Escanor then swings his weapon at Percival. Percival blocks with his, but is overpowered by Escanor effortlessly and literally shoved into the ground, his head poking out. Tristan, not convinced, rushes in and gets face grabbed and body slammed into the ground like a rag doll. Lancelot knows it won't be easy, and especially not as easy as the other knights thought it would be. But he gets surprised too when even Shining Road has no effect on Escanor. We're made to believe that as of right now, Shining Road is the most powerful of attacks in the entire series with no debate. We're told a while back that Lancelot was actually on par with the 7 Deadly Sins, but when he's toe-to-toe with these groups, and specifically the 7 Deadly Sins the strongest, whether that's sparring with his dad or this fight, he tends to get embarrassed or walked all over on. Gawain steps in with Passionate Son, a replica to and a direct answer to Escanor's Cruel Son, which was seconds away from connecting. When the dust settles, Gawain declares Escanor couldn't possibly lay his hands on his own daughter, to which she's brutally mistaken because there was no hesitation to hit her not just once, but follow it up to with a kick to the face after his first blow already dropped her to her knees. But apparently that was enough. Gawain just needed to show him the blood of the boar sin of gluttony, and he'd disappear. That's when Merlin shows her true form for the first time in the series, explaining that Escanor, or the Escanor that they fought, was the work of Camelot's force, and her sacred treasure, the Morningstar Alden, and its power to analyze the abilities and physicality of anything to create a powerful illusion. But according to Merlin, an illusion that's nowhere near as powerful as the real Escanor, we can visibly see Lancelot's reaction as he most likely knows he'd lose to the real Escanor, especially as he is now. Merlin tells the group that she's ready to reveal the truth after all these years. And just to pause on recapping, I do want to just say that this marks the beginning of the end of all things we did not know going into the series. Things along the lines of where's Merlin and what is she doing now? Who are Gawain's real parents? Why is Lancelot so strong? Who is Ironside truly and why does he hate Varghese? These are all deficits in the plot created to circle back around to later for timing purposes, and the knights finding out the truth about Merlin solves one of the first and biggest mysteries of the show as it went on. Now everything is out in the open and new problems are necessary to move the story along, such as the Knights of the Holy Grail and Elizabeth and Bond's seemingly inevitable deaths. I believe the story is taking another turn for something completely new and unexpected. And it's here and made clear by the end of this chapter, but we'll get to more Merlin soon. Chapter 238 is all about telling the knights, finally, I might add, what happened at the end of the last Holy War, specifically the requirements she needed to meet in order to unleash chaos and make it Arthur's force, because he's the only one that can control it. Her reason for this is entirely selfish for some, it's relatable for others. After finding out Meliodas found love with Elizabeth before she could get the chance to express her own feelings for him, she found herself with an emotional void with nothing to fill it. Then one day she discovers the primordial entity called chaos while studying ancient magic and historical texts, but not just its existence, but learning that it is the supreme entity above all else and is directly responsible for the creation of all things in the world as we know it, and its other deities such as the Demon King and the Supreme Deity. So it's basically God. With the knowledge, Merlin becomes motivated to understand its power and control it to create a new world in order to fill this emotional void of hers. But what can go wrong? Well, it became her life's obsession. Stick with me here, but humans were the focus point of Chaos's creations because of their endless contradictions and their emotional spectrums to produce the world's most benevolent of heroes and the world's most malevolent of villains and everything in between. Each and every human is a representation of chaos. They are living metaphors. So subsequently, chaos was sealed away by the Demon King and Supreme Deity out of that jealousy. Later, those two would go to war with each other because they were created to maintain a balance of power, but neither truly cared about anyone or anything. So the Holy War was created as a game they can indulge in, with neither one being able to decisively win. In doing so, they created a never-ending cycle of hatred between their people, and not just their people, but almost every clan, like the giants, the fairies. Merlin knew she'd have to orchestrate another holy war in which both gods were permanently defeated, which would unleash chaos. And instead of choosing a different way, she deliberately manipulated her closest allies into becoming tools to offset the balance. When that happened, she unsealed chaos directly into Arthur, fulfilling his role as its vessel. This broke the rules of reality in Britannia and immediately caused more harm to its reality than the Demon King or the Supreme Deity ever could. This is where Cath comes in. As we remember, he is evil personified, as we learn in this series. He simply hid himself until he learned that the power of chaos could be obtainable, revealing himself to seize that power. All that to say, the Sins dealt with the threats, and the group split bitterly, with no one trusting Merlin, who willingly let the world face peril for her own gain. But back to the present day, Merlin reveals that she found Cath living inside Arthur, consuming as much chaos from Arthur as he could. She says that she forcibly severed Cath from Arthur and brought Arthur into hiding, but the damage was already done. Cath controls 95% of chaos. The group is stunned, but Lancelot has a few things to say, indignantly reminding the group that everything that's gone wrong within their lifetime, and their parents for that matter, is wholly because of Merlin's selfish ambitions. They try to talk him down, but Lancelot makes a strong point. They still have Jade. I'll leave y'all to ponder with that one. Chapter 239, we have the arrival of the Holy Grail. In this series, it's a chalice with Arthur's blood inside it. The plan is, in order to permanently kill Cath, the Knights of Prophecy will need sacred treasures crafted by none other than doves and infused with Arthur's blood. There isn't too much that happens in this chapter besides the knights picking Arthur's mind about general king duties, Camelot, and for some even their parents. In contrast, Lancelot is silent though. On his mind are the countless misfortunes Cath brought upon the citizens of Camelot and around the world, including, but not limited to, Guinevere. Chapter 240, the last chapter I'll talk about for this video, is the biggest setup chapter than the previous three I covered, and it's largely for the reason my hype in the intro. It's here we learn why it's called the Holy Grail. Merlin's caution about Lancelot, the setup for the Holy Knights of the Holy Grail, and we even see some cracks in Lancelot's psyche much earlier than I personally could have predicted. Start with the Holy Grail first. In the series, it gets its name for a very obvious reason. It's a chalice that holds the blood of the noble King Arthur. I'll talk more about it in an upcoming video, but unlike Arthur, who tried to take his own life, Merlin showed no interest or any remorse, or even gave an apology for everything she's done. Instead, the one thing that concerns her is a piece on her chessboard that she cannot control, and that is Lancelot. After busting a hole through the wall to exit the castle, she calls him rather precarious, which is a direct sign that we'll see Lancelot is not okay. Back to the Holy Grail, Merlin has no knowledge of the Knights of the Holy Grail, but it's Gawain nonetheless that notices the connection between this and the group that ambushed them and has been in pursuit ever since. This leads us right into Lancelot's first crack as he attacks Tristan after Tristan asks a question that cuts directly to the point. He says, "Could it be that your anger toward King Arthur has something in common with the woman you care for?" Those were his exact words, or the exact translation words anyways. The attack was to move Tristan out of the way from yet another ambush from this large eel-like looking creature, which then takes us directly into the third party attack from the Knights of the Holy Grail. Both sides agree that if Lancelot can manage to defeat Galahad of the Holy Grail, he is in fact the real Lancelot. That's going to bring us up to date with the last video I squeezed out in chapter 241. Chapter 242 is coming soon, and there's still so much more I have to say, and I'd like to predict just from these chapters alone. Doing a recap of 4 chapters in one video is definitely biting off more than I could chew right now, because when I read these chapters, I have a ton of questions and plenty of connections to make with the canon Arthurian lore and other inspirations for the series. I believe I should be able to get, if not 1-2 videos out a week. If this is the case, the series is rumored to be a lengthy one, or at least longer than the initial series, but it's going to be it for today's recap. If you made it this far, really do appreciate it. Just starting out channel, pretty obvious. So a like and a subscribe would go a really long way. Appreciate you for your support. Thank you. Take care of yourself.